design thinking to agile. Design thinking is particularly suitable for any of a pre-product or a pre-project stage. Particularly if you have a product which you visualize and yet to be in the market, then probably you could take a design thinking approach, or probably if you want to do something innovative in an entrepreneurship itself, then you could take a design thinking approach to come out for a product. And once you have crystallized about a product, then you could perform the agile process, which is a continuous product or project improvement. So let's first look at design thinking as such. So design thinking, as given in this picture, design thinking is the first step and the process of agile could be the subsequent one. So design thinking, if you look at it, there are categorically about 5 different stages. The first one is empathize with the user to gain real insight into their needs. Empathize with the user. It can so happen, it is not always that user has to provide you with some of the requirements or some of the thoughts. It can so happen to you that you go to the, due to some requirement, you find that there is no service or no product which could cater to the needs, to your own needs, like whatever it is, like the Uber cabs or Uber Eats came because it's always to the restaurant you go, and when you go to the restaurant there are so many things. Why go to the restaurant? Why not bring the food to your home by someone? That is where the Uber Eats came up. And similarly, like when you want to, instead of going and calling up for a taxi, why not you use the apps for just to find out which cab is available. Those are the Uber model. So empathize with the user to get the real insight into their needs. So empathize can be either through the user, discussion with the user, or you could yourself find out the need or find out the gap. There is a gap which is not being serviced through any of the app, through any of the product. Then that is where you have a kind of an input, and that input needs to be into a kind of a problem statement. That is where you define. So define the problem that user needs to feel like being a part of the, this is again they have taken the fitness example, but in your case you have to define whatever is that which you have the inputs based on empathize. You can define the problem statement, and then what could be the likely solution you could look at it, and that is where you have an ideate. Ideate is brainstorm and generate the ideas to solve the problem. So then comes the ideate stage. You need to brainstorm. Generally, if you look at the entrepreneurs, they have something in mind and they try to build the product, and post building the product they will try to force it on the users, but in the long run it will not be successful. So particularly if you are a small or medium entrepreneur, you would already been in crunch for money. So in that case you got to empathize, define, then ideate. At the ideate stage you brainstorm, generate ideas to solve the problem. What are the likely problem? So, so once you have a list of activities or list of actions to be done or actions to be performed, then you perform the prototype. Prototype could be, it is not always, prototype will be the final product. So you have a prototype, you have maybe there are 10 different actions to be performed, or 10 different features, I would say 10 different features you narrow down, and all the 10 different features cannot be accommodated in the first go itself, and some of the features may be good to have, but that might not be a priority for you. So in that case, you got to build a prototype, you got to test it, and the prototype and testing is a kind of an iterative approach. Try to give samples for the prototype and test it, and you could refine. You have a feature, and even that feature could be refined. Maybe a feature, if it's a kind of a web application, you got to get that to that feature, there are 5 different clicks. Instead of 5 different clicks, you ensure that you are able to reach that one with just 2 or 3 different clicks. So that's a kind of a refinement. So the point I'm trying to convey is the prototype and testing is an iterative approach. Having said that, the design thinking steps will follow this: empathize, design, ideate, prototype, and test. So ideally suits in case of a pre-product or yet to be launched product. Design thinking would be ideally suitable. And if you want to change as well from a kind of a which you already have a product and you still it's not doing well, then you want to go to an altogether slightly better approach, then also you could do a design thinking, and that's what the Netflix did. That Netflix eliminated the inconvenience of delivering the DVD directly to a customer, and then they used, because internet was coming up, and then they went into the subscription model. There are other examples like Airbnb as well. They took cameras, high quality cameras, pictures of want to see for the room rental. So they used high quality cameras to take pictures of what customer want to see, and based on the travel observation. This is for the room accommodation, Airbnb. And the Uber Eats driver apps provided step-by-step direction from the restaurant to the customer to ensure smoother delivery process. So these are kind of a success story whom they used, I mean, because people who used design thinking as such. So as I said, this could be at a pre-product stage, or if you want to totally change the direction of that product, maybe DVD was dying down, and that's where with the internet, and they went for a subscription model, and it turned out to be success. Instead of trying to bank just on DVDs, just like what Kodak did with the traditional cameras and film, they just banked on it instead of looking at an alternative approach of digital cameras. So that's where design thinking could be useful. So the interesting concept is that as far as design thinking goes, it is the fail fast, fail often, and then go back to the drawing boards and make improvements where you have failed. So it's an iterative approach, multiple iteration, where feedback from the users are incorporated, changes are made to come and with the final solution. So it's a kind of an iterative approach. Agile, if you look at the other one, Agile framework, this is once you have something, you have a product, or you have a product or a project, it is already in place, then you get into an Agile Scrum framework. Here in this case, the key responsible people are the product owner, the team, and the scrum master. And scrum master is more of a facilitator. He is part of the team. Is not a project manager. In the waterfall model, you will have a project manager. Here he is part of the team. The product owner gives the product backlog, which could be a list of features, and maybe 50 different features is what is requested. Probably you find out on a basis of priority, maybe you want to have 10 features in the first iteration. Then you get into a sprint and find out, sprint daily scrum meeting is between the scrum master and the team. Find out what is the status of each of the stories, each of the requirement. The requirement is known as the user stories. Look out for the status of the user stories. A daily scrum meeting happens, and at some point of time, sprint meeting, review meeting needs to happen, as what is the status. And finally, at the end of that sprint, you do a sprint retrospective. Some of the features might not get implemented. Those things you go take it to the next sprint. So that's in a nutshell about the Agile framework. I'm trying to link it with a design thinking concept. So design thinking could be at a pre-product stage or a pre-project stage. And once you have crystallized something, you have something, the outcome which is tangible, then you take it up with the Agile methodology so that you can refine the product outcome and in a continuous way. That is where you might have to use the Agile methodology. I hope now you are able to correlate or relate how design thinking and Agile methodology can go hand in hand. Thanks and cheers.